going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where we discuss everything Australian rules football. And tomorrow night, another round of AFL action is set to kick off, which means it's time for us to get our tips in once more. But before we do so, time to take a reflection on round 17. And by my own fault, by tipping some teams that I probably shouldn't have and some upsets thrown in the mix as well, I got 5 out of 9, which has pushed myself down the leaderboard in this tipping competition quite severely. As you can see on screen, we went with Geelong by 23 points. In the end, it was Brisbane by 22. We backed the Bulldogs, thinking what Brisbane did to Sydney 2 weeks prior is something that the Bulldogs could do, but Sydney decided they were going to turn it up, and I think that is the mark of a very good team. Convincingly beaten 2 weeks ago against the Lions, bounced back in a big way against the Bulldogs. Adelaide, I feel, was all but a certainty against West Coast. Hawthorn losing to Melbourne could have been a 100-plus point blowout, and I don't think many would have anticipated that, but those of you who tipped Melbourne on the basis of they've already trumped Hawthorn once this year, probably logic I should have used when tipping as well. The big upset was GWS over Fremantle. Fremantle losing their first game since round 1. However, I still feel this loss is going to hold them in better stead than it would be a little bit detrimental and set them back. I think they learn a lot from this loss. We then have green lights all the way home. Collingwood against the Gold Coast, Carlton against Richmond, St Kilda against Essendon, Port Adelaide against North Melbourne. Richmond's so close to pinching that win. I was on the edge of my seat, but 5 out of 9. Boy, very average. I hope people in the competition did a lot better than I did. And they did. We had one solo tipster tip 7 out of 9, the most correct amount of tips for this round. So congratulations must go to Moon Predicts, Jude F. Congratulations, sir, for tipping the most correct amount of tips for the comp for round 17. Turning attention first to round margin, in case anybody wants to follow, round margin bettings and things like that. Feel free to have a look there. Total margin as well. Feel free to go through that as you see fit. But it is Welsh Duke Duncan P holding it down for another week, getting ahead now by a further 2 tips instead of that 1 tip lead that he had coming into last round. Sir, whatever you're doing it good. Congratulations for holding it down for yet another round. Following that, we have Master Tipper from PA and Big Kev Shendo tied for second place on 106 tips. Our top 10 then rounds out with Evelyn May, Some Cripple, Ron Schill, Skyvo, Jonesy, Team Wiggles, and Dusty Fendoff 4, with Christopher W tied for that 10th spot. I have dropped all the way to 21 out of 35. Yeah, I've got a lot of work to do. I mean, top 10 isn't out of sight. It's only 3 tips, but when everybody's tipping a lot better than I am, we got to start making some moves. Maybe round 18 we can get a little bit of comeuppance. First game of the round tomorrow night. We have an absolute belter. Arguably could be the game of the year, given that these 2 teams have been the benchmark so far. Fremantle, Sydney, Optus Stadium. As you can see, both have won 4 of their last 5 games. We go back to 2025. It was Sydney in a close contest in Sydney. Sydney defeated Fremantle in Fremantle the same year. And then prior to that, Fremantle with a tiny scalp over Sydney in Sydney. This is going to be a very interesting battle. This is a battle of the handball game. Both of these teams run that defensive handball from back half to forward half, and it has been the sword that both of these teams die on. They either do it absolutely brilliantly and it opens teams up, or they do it too much and they're put to the sword. And Sydney, I feel, are the ones that overcommit to it a little bit too much. They get the forward handball a little bit too ahead of themselves. They try to put it out to run onto it, but it turns turnover too many times. Going to be an interesting battle. Luke Jackson, Brodie Grundy in the ruck. Then the midfields. You're going to have Caleb Sarong. You're going to have Shea Bolton. You're going to have Andrew Brayshaw and the likes taking on Heaney, Warner, Goulden. I think Alex Pearce has potential to keep Curnow quiet. On the flip side, Tom McCartan will probably go to Tracy. It's an interesting watch. This is going to be an interesting battle. I'm going to go Fremantle purely for the fact that it's at home, and I'm going to go Fremantle by 16 points. I think it's going to be a very close contest at Optus. Friday night, back to one game. Thank Christ. Marvel Stadium, Collingwood, North Melbourne. As funny as it sounds, being played at Marvel gives North Melbourne every opportunity to win this game. If it was at the MCG, you'd automatically tip Collingwood to get the win. Collingwood have won their last 3. North Melbourne lost their last game, but had won the 3 prior to that. But as you can see, the last 3 games all have gone the way of Collingwood. They have been too big, too strong, and even though they lack a A-grade forward line, they're coming up against a team that doesn't have an A-grade defense, so it kind of evens things out and peters out a little bit. It's a battle of the midfield here. Is it going to be Dacos and co? Is it going to be Sheasel and co? This is going to be a very interesting battle to watch. Again, has potential to be an absolutely brilliant game, and the fact that it's being played at Marvel once more does open opportunity for North Melbourne to come knocking, but I just feel Collingwood here. Their forward press last week against the Gold Coast was fantastic, and you've got to back them in again this week. The first on Saturday, St Kilda taking on Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium. Again, being played at Marvel probably helps St Kilda, but Port Adelaide popping up in some rare form here. As you can see, 2 of the last 3 have gone the way of St Kilda, but it's always been a tight enough contest. It's been Port Adelaide by 2. It has been St Kilda by 17, and then it has been obviously here as well, incredibly close earlier in the year, but that was played in Adelaide. St Kilda starting to run onto some form. Port Adelaide have been losing some games that they should win, but when they play well, they play incredibly well. This is tough. I think this is going to be determined on ins and outs, I feel. I'm going to go Port Adelaide, because Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira is going to get a hard tag here. I think Willem Drew goes to Nasiah, and we know Nasiah can't shake a tag. It's going to be a very interesting watch. Battle of the defenses. Cal Wilkie up one end, Alir up the other. It's going to be a great watch, but I think Port Adelaide's midfield in Butters, in Horne-Francis, maybe gets on top of the battle if they can shut Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira down, but then again, you have the opportunity to play Nasiah out of your defense and then run into the midfield as an extra midfielder, so maybe St Kilda. I'm going to go Port Adelaide. I'm feeling an upset. We go to NG Stadium. GWS taking on Geelong. Geelong have only won 1 of their last 5 games. GWS have won 2 of their last 5. So both teams here, interestingly, on, different sides of the spectrum, but both against the ropes. And it has been GWS the last 3 outings. They seem to be Geelong's bunny. And I feel with how GWS played last week against Fremantle, they can do it against Geelong. Geelong they're in all sorts. Jeremy Cameron's not right, and I think Sam Taylor can have a field day. I'm going GWS at home. Carlton, Hawthorn. Carlton haven't lost a game under Josh Fraser. Almost lost last week against Richmond. Hawthorn have had the better of them the last 3 times they have gone against each other. I think Hawthorn can get the job done here quite convincingly. They have been a great stoppage team, and if Richmond can get on top of the stoppage game against Carlton, Hawthorn definitely can. The only thing that's going to hamper Hawthorn is when it comes to team selection, because they're missing some key components in their defensive line. They could use Gunston up forward as well. They could use Nick Watson. They're definitely missing Josh Weddle. They're missing Impey. This is going to be a close contest. I think Hawthorn get it done. Hawthorn showed me enough They got out. They almost lost by 100 points at one point. They were down by 90 against the Demons, but then to kick the next 12 or 13, you just know if they get on top of the game early, they just run away with it. And I'm going to go Hawthorn to dish up Carlton their first loss for the season. Final game, Saturday night. Adelaide taking on the Gold Coast in Adelaide Oval. Now, we can have a look here. Gold Coast at home, Adelaide at home. And with the way Gold Coast have ran, they've lost their last 5 in a row. Adelaide have won 4 of 5. They're pressing for a top 4 finish. Adelaide win this game quite convincingly, and we don't really have to talk about it all too much. We just move on to the first on Sunday. The Bulldogs hosting West Coast at Marvel Stadium. It was West Coast back in 2023, but it has been the Bulldogs convincingly since then. Very convincingly, and they're going to do it quite comfortably in this game as well. Unfortunately, the Eagles are just going to get peppered a little bit, and this is a game where the Bulldogs need to win emphatically to get that percentage boost. I've been saying it all year. Percentage this year means a hell of a lot more, especially with wildcard when you're pushing for top 4, top 6, because, for example, Brisbane are currently only in the top 4 by 0.3%. That is it. The Bulldogs have a very low percentage. Actually, the Bulldogs out of the top 10 teams right now have the lowest percentage. There are teams outside of that. There are 4 teams outside of the top 10. 5 teams outside of the top 10 even that have a higher percentage than the Bulldogs. So they need to win this one, and they need to pile on. This needs to be an 8 to 10 goal win. It needs to be huge. Melbourne taking on Richmond. I would love to see my boys get up, but it has been Melbourne all the time lately, and I just want to see some fight. I just want to see the same fight that Richmond brought to the game last week against Carlton. That will at least make us competitive, but Max Gawn gets off the chain. Cozzy Pickett's going to towel us up. This could get ugly. I just want to see... I don't want to see the Richmond that drops their head. I want to see the Richmond that fights it out to the final siren. But we are going to back Melbourne this week. I'm happy for Richmond to upset my tip. And Brisbane taking on Essendon. I mean, there's a reason Essendon is paying $17 to win. We don't even have to look there. We know Brisbane have beaten them the last 3 times. And Brisbane are starting to run into a good vein of form as well, which is great for their chances to finish top 4. As you can see on screen, we are going Fremantle, Collingwood, Port Adelaide, GWS, Hawthorn, Adelaide, Western Bulldogs, Melbourne, and Brisbane. That is it for today's video. I would appreciate it immensely if you took the time to hit that like button down below, and if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button and join the community we are slowly but surely building. Moving forward, it has been a couple of weeks in the making, but I finally have my mid-season All-Australian and mid-season Best 22 Under 22 videos set and ready to go. So keep your eyes peeled. And then obviously at the end of the season, when the squads are nominated for both and then we see the final teams announced, we can do a reflective video and see how my team stacks up against the real team, and we can have conversations about who you think should be in the team, who shouldn't be in the team. A lot of effort's gone into it, so I do hope you guys enjoy. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.